Somewhere on the edge of the world, there's a city that's disappearing. Not because the sea is rising, but because the city itself is swallowing the sea. It's called Jakarta, the capital of Indonesia, home to more than 10 million people, and every single day it sinks a little deeper. From the sky, it looks alive, a mosaic of glass, concrete, and color, built on centuries of history and trade. But beneath the streets, under the chaos of motorbikes and billboards, the ground itself is collapsing, pulled downward by the weight of its own progress. And what's happening here isn't just an environmental story. It's a story about greed, survival, and the invisible price of modern life. In the 1960s, Jakarta was known as the Pearl of Asia, a booming city with dreams as tall as its new skyscrapers. But it was built on swamp and sand, land reclaimed from the sea by colonial engineers centuries earlier. The Dutch, who ruled here for over 300 years, built canals and floodgates to hold the water back. But after independence, as the city exploded in size, those ancient defenses began to fail. So people started drilling, not for oil, not for gold, but for something far more precious: water. Jakarta doesn't have enough clean water for its people. The city's plumbing never reached the growing slums, so millions began drilling private wells straight into the ground. But each drop of groundwater they took left a tiny empty space beneath the city. Over time, those empty pockets grew. Streets, homes, and highways began to sink, slowly, silently. By the 1990s, parts of North Jakarta were already 2 meters lower than sea level. Today, in some neighborhoods, the ocean is higher than the rooftops. When the tide rolls in, the sea doesn't crash against a beach. It seeps through drains, creeps under doors, and fills entire streets. People build makeshift barriers of sandbags and concrete, but the water always finds a way back. Locals call it Banjir Rob, the tidal flood. It comes twice a day, as regular as breathing. And yet somehow life continues. Children play in ankle-deep water. Shops reopen after each flood. There's a kind of defiance here, as if the city refuses to admit what's happening to it. But the truth is brutal. Jakarta is sinking faster than any major city on Earth. Some districts are dropping by 25 centimeters a year. At this rate, a third of the city could be underwater by 2050. Governments have tried to fix it. There was the Great Garuda Project, a plan to build a massive seawall shaped like the wings of Indonesia's mythical bird. It promised protection, renewal, and new luxury districts rising from the reclaimed sea. But behind the glossy renderings and patriotic slogans, corruption festered. Environmentalists warned that the wall would trap polluted river water, creating a toxic lagoon. Fishermen said it would destroy their livelihoods. And quietly, experts began to admit what no one wanted to say. The wall wouldn't save Jakarta. It would just buy time for those who could afford it. I met a man named Rudy who lives in a neighborhood called Muara Baru, once a thriving fishing community, now slowly drowning. He pointed to a faded line on his wall, about waist height. This, he said, was the flood last year. Now it comes every month. He's raised his floor 3 times. Each time the water finds him again. His children have learned to sleep through the sound of waves slapping against the door. When I asked him why he doesn't move, he smiled. Not sadly, but almost proudly. "This is home," he said. "The sea was here before us. We just borrow the land." It's easy to think of sinking cities as victims of nature. Rising seas, melting ice caps. But Jakarta isn't being swallowed by the ocean. It's being pulled down by itself, by the weight of millions of people chasing a better life in a place that was never meant to hold them. The malls, the highways, the endless towers of glass. They all demand water, electricity, space. Every bucket drawn from the earth lowers the city a little more. Jakarta is, quite literally, a city eating itself alive. And yet, amid the chaos, there's a strange kind of beauty. At sunset, the flooded streets reflect the sky in liquid gold. The mosques call for evening prayer over the hum of water pumps. Children race homemade boats through alleyways that used to be roads. It's surreal, fragile and human, and maybe even hopeful. Because no matter how many times the city falls, people keep rebuilding it. But not everyone can stay. The government has a plan to move the entire capital. They're building a new city, hundreds of kilometers away in the jungles of Borneo, a futuristic metropolis called Nusantara, designed to be smart, green, and safe from floods. It sounds like salvation, but for millions still living in Jakarta, it feels more like abandonment. Rudy and his neighbors won't be moving to Nusantara. Neither will the street vendors, the laborers, or the families whose homes have already sunk below sea level. For them, the new capital might as well be on another planet. Experts call what's happening here subsidence, but that word feels too clean, too scientific. What's really happening is slower, sadder, and more human. An entire city, one of the most vibrant in the world, is slowly disappearing beneath the surface. And not because of some distant climate catastrophe, but because of 1,000 small, ordinary choices. A hole drilled for water, a tower built a little too high, a system that values growth over balance. And together, those choices are reshaping the map of a nation. When I left Jakarta, I stood on the sea wall that divides the city from the ocean. Behind me, the skyline shimmered in the heat. In front of me, the Java Sea stretched endlessly, calm, patient, waiting. The wall will hold for now, but water always remembers where it's been. And someday, whether it's 10 years or 50, the sea will return to reclaim what was once its own. Because no matter how high we build, no matter how clever our designs, nature never forgets its shape. And maybe that's the real story of Jakarta. Not just the tragedy of a city sinking, but the warning it leaves for the rest of us. We keep reaching higher, chasing progress and carving new worlds from old land. But the deeper truth is this: if we take too much, for too long, the Earth will take something back. This is Nexora. The future doesn't wait, and neither should you. Subscribe now.